3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Well, hello. It is Wednesday, another Dennis and Andy show. I'm wearing a top shirt because it's a little chilly today. It's gray, gloomy, it's rainy outside, it's gross.
And it's only about 80 degrees in his studio, so he is chilled.
It's not even close. It's actually set at 69 if you want to look.
And look, Randy's already here, and he's all toasty and ready for the show.
I don't know if he's toasty. He's up in Canada, I believe. So
well, then he's indoors.
Exactly. But it is Wednesday. We have another guest. We see, it's kind of like we're booking out guests on Wednesdays because we've got one next week as well. But this week, our guest is Narwhal. You will know him from his Indiegogo projects, Earthbound Part 2, both very successful. His Randy says, not toasty at all. And his new campaign is Nosferatu, which looks very cool. It's coming out on the 100th year anniversary of when the movie came out. So do you remember seeing that in theaters?
I do.
You should.
I do, indeed. All right.
I was waiting for you to slam back at me somehow.
No,
I'm older than you.
You are older than me. And everybody on here knows it. And everybody who watches this later already knows that. It's like beating a dead horse. Why? Pretty soon you just turn it into the glue factory.
Why would you beat a dead whore? You said dead whores, right? Beating dead whores?
This is why we can never have a rated G channel.
You beat them and killed them in the first place. You still continue to beat them. What is up, Narwhal?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
How's it going, brother?
It's going good. Yeah. So if Andy is older than Dennis, then you might be around when they released that weird silent film about the moon. You remember that one? It's like even older than Nosferatu.
I actually do not, but technically I'm only older than Dennis by about 3 weeks. So it's not a lot.
And in dog years, that's like decades.
Yeah. Practically twins.
Yeah, that's what people tell us. They're like, you guys look like you could be brothers. And then they look at me and go, you're the hot one. And I'm like, shh, he'll hear you.
And then I say, we know, and I got all the brains. And that holds true. So we'll take that.
We'll go with
that. Yeah, that's a good breakdown.
I guess. So is it chilly and crisp where you are?
Yeah, spring's just starting. I started hearing the birds chirping and the frogs. You can hear the frogs start going off. Like maybe a week ago.
Does daylight saving time where you bounce the clock ahead affect you at all or no?
Yeah, we just did that. And I guess the Congress, did they just pass something where they might quit doing that? I'd be okay with that. Like, let's quit changing the clock. But the way it is now is the way I like it.
Yeah, Congress did actually. Supposedly, if it all goes through, I think I read that it would take effect in November 2023. So I guess that means basically next year we would just bounce the clocks ahead and then that's it. So technically I would think they'd say it would take effect a year from now because in November
one more session of clock bouncing.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be like Y2K. All the computers are set to automatically do it. They won't know what to do. Planes are going to fall out of the sky. Oh my God. All because of daylight savings time.
Dogs and cats will get along.
I know.
What's other stuff?
Cowboys and Indians.
You can't say that.
I can. I just did. Otherwise, it would be Cowboys and the Washington football team.
Cowboys Commanders.
I can never say that.
It's Cowboys and the indigenous people, Dennis. Jesus.
Yeah, if Y2K ended up not being a thing, it makes sense that daylight savings ending would be a thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's never... I know that when the clocks go forward, it affects people and stuff. More, I guess there's more car crashes, heart attacks, shit like that. But I got to be honest, it's never really affected me because one, they do it on a weekend. So yeah, I know I'm losing an hour technically, but I don't know about you, but most Sundays I don't have to get up at a specific time. So I'm just like, whatever, I'm still getting the same amount of sleep.
Yeah, you kind of barely notice. The thing I notice is, I guess it's lighter later now and darker earlier, which I actually like. I like it being dark when I wake up a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's the thing I like about it is the fact that it, once a couple weeks from now, when it's really kicked in, it'll still be light at 8:00. And in summertime here, we're in North Carolina, it'll still be light out at 8:30, pushing 9:00.
Yeah.
Whereas in the winter, once we fall back, the last week of Christmas is when it gets darkest, like right around 5:20, it'll be pitch black outside. And I hate that.
Yeah, me too.
So
yeah, and daylight savings makes that worse, I think, for some reason, the first time they move it back.
Yeah.
And
well.
are you guys doing HeroCon in June?
Oh yeah, I do it every year. Yeah, I mean we go every year, but yeah, I've been going every year since we moved here in 2005, but then I went probably 3 times between 2000 and 2005. My first one was in 1994, and I probably went 5 or 6 times in the 90s. So yeah,
nice.
It's a great show.
Yeah, is it like a pretty big fun one? So, because I'm thinking about going, because there's not really going to be a CG con, anytime soon. So I was like, I should start going to some regular conventions, maybe.
Dude, Heroes Con's great. It's just it's all comics. It's one of the last true just comic book shows.
Yeah, it's one of the 3 big ones really on the East Coast. You've got, New York, you've got Orlando, and then you've got Charlotte, which is the Heroes Con, and all 3 of them are really good for comic books.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. It's probably, do you guys get tables, or is it cool to just come and be a comic fan? I could throw some books in a backpack or something, but I don't know.
I mean, I always get a table because, they set me up. I'm always in Artist Alley with the table.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, because I live here. I mean, I'm literally, we're only, well, specifically where I live, I think it's like 20 minutes away.
So, yeah, you're like home team advantage.
Exactly. So yeah, I always table at the show. But yeah, I mean, if you just want to go to it and stuff, or if you want, I can always shoot you the contact information for the person in charge.
Yeah, so. I might email them and just ask, I guess.
Yeah.
Start that process, because maybe next year, if not this year.
Yeah. I'll shoot that. I'll shoot her email to you after the show.
Okay, cool.
So what do you got going on? So actually, before we even get there, Dennis always likes to ask a question with all our guests.
Especially any guest that's new to our channel, because I know on a lot of your channels, you guys may know you, but our guys don't always. We always like to find out your origin story. How did you get into comic books, and what precipitated all of this? And do you have an arch nemesis? Yeah, you always got to ask that.
Oh yeah. In the past, I've said my arch nemesis is Peter Travers. He's like a film reviewer for Rolling Stone. But yeah, now I think I have some other arch nemesis. A lot of them are like, and they don't even know that I'm their arch nemesis, which is an advantage to them. But,
now, why would you? Because I've actually heard that dude's name. So why would you say he's an arch nemesis then?
Because for a while I was doing some like film review blogging stuff, so I'd almost consider myself like a film reviewer, and this is just like my 20s, and he was too, and I always just did the opposite of what he thought about any movie, pretty much.
Now, did you do that even if you agreed with him? Or did it always work out that you're like, man, I'm just always opposite this guy?
Yeah, it would just work out because, I wouldn't necessarily want to change my opinion, hopefully, just to be manipulated or whatever. But then, so lately, too, some of the Portland Mafia people I kind of don't like. And they're just because they say shit about Comicsgate or whatever. But like Jeff Lemire is one, and there's a couple of them. And I'm like, screw those guys. I want to be successful just so they can maybe like I have a fantasy in my head that if I ever get like kind of famous or whatever, and there's a time where I have to shake Jeff Lemire's hand and he doesn't know that long ago I was just a guy on the internet that he was a dick to, and he'd reach his hand out to shake my hand and I'd be like,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. So how did you jump into comics? How did you get your first in and decide I want to do some comics?
Yeah, good question. It was like in high school, I almost like conscious decision for my senior year of high school. My like senior project was a comic book. So that was the first comic book I ever did. And I still have some copies of it lying around. And it's funny because it's like terrible. So that's one thing I've like remembered to learn over the years is like, it was so bad. And like the writing is bad. The art, it was bad. But you don't really notice at the time. At the time I was kind of pumped. And it was like that all the way through my 20s as I'm learning. You know, you always look back and you're like, oh, I thought it was good, but it's terrible. And then you're like, what if that's happening now? And it's like lately, at least I'm like, okay, I still kind of like stuff that I do.
Right.
That happened in my 30s or something. But yeah, so the first thing I did was almost like, I think it was kind of, internet was around, but I don't know if it was straight up like just Googling stuff or whatever. But, you know, you can pretty easily find out the classics that everyone says. So I read Watchmen and I read Dark Knight and Mouse, some other ones, and got more into it with just kind of reading the classics. And then I went to art school for a little bit and ended up dropping out of an animation school because it was just a little too expensive. And then I did like kind of a hippie degree that I regret just a little bit from Evergreen State College. And that was just like a kind of a regular bachelor's of arts. And some of it was in sculpture and art history. And then I was kind of just working in my 20s. All my 20s, I was writing a lot though. And I was kind of wanted to be a filmmaker. So I was a little more into movies and comics, but I was still drawing a lot of comics and kind of just slowly getting better. But especially for my 20s, it was like a lot about writing, reading all the books on screenwriting. I had one kind of mentor buddy, a little older dude who were good friends. And we co-wrote some scripts together and he kind of showed me the ropes of screenwriting. He worked at a movie rental, like a boutique or like a cool one in Austin with all these weird movies. And he would give me like tons of weird, awesome movies to watch. So I had a good, like kind of storytelling education from that. And then it was when I was 30, pretty much when I turned 30, it was like a existential crisis where I was like, I need to start working on like a permanent project like that, or else, you know, it needs to be something to like be remembered or whatever. Yeah. I should start now. I can't wait any longer. So that was like, I had Earthbound in a script form and I was like, I think I'm going to make this a comic. And I was jumping into a project that big. It was kind of intimidating. So I had like a rule is like, I'm not going to overthink things because I don't want to get paralyzed. They call it the paralysis of analysis.
Yeah.
You know? So I was like, all right. So I sit down and I'm like, I could spend a year designing all the characters and I haven't even started the book. So I'm like, okay, so I'm not even going to design the characters. I do a drawing and I'm like, that's Spaceman. I do another drawing. I'm like, that's Julia. So yeah, just going fast. And that kind of energy did kind of benefit the book in some ways. It has this kind of punk FU energy that is kind of fun.
Well, it's funny with the paralysis analysis because I know exactly what you're talking about, because there are days where if my mind starts going down like a rabbit hole of the things that it takes to get a book done. And this is, you know, I've been doing this for 31 years, right? Yeah. I started in 91 and it still happens where if I just start thinking about all the steps and all the stages, I just kind of freeze up, you know? Yeah. And honestly, if that happens, the best thing I can do, depending on the time of day, if it's like in the morning, I can try to walk away from it and do something else and then come back. But if it's like 2 or 3 in the afternoon and that happens, I just write the day off and then start fresh the next day, because then I get everything out of my head and whatnot. But I totally understand that. And it's one of those things that early on in my career, when it would happen, I would think, oh, I'm sure years from now, after I've been doing this for
Yeah.
a while, it'll go away. Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah. And sleeping on stuff does help because your subconscious will kind of work things out and you can like line up those baby steps to get it done. The next morning,
Yep.
you'll feel a lot better. I'm definitely most fresh in the morning.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly how I am too. When I see, it's funny, we know so many guys, we know a lot of the same guys, and a lot of them are night owls, and I'm just like, man, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
What's amazing to me is you've been doing it for 31 years, that means you've been doing it longer than half of our viewers have been alive.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. And something about it that's funny too, remembering back of what it's like there's a lot of anxiety of like, even say like script writing. So it's like, how do people write a script? How do you do it? How do you do it? And you're like running around trying to figure out how to do it. And then if you end up just doing it, eventually you do kind of just do it and
Right.
however you almost make it up yourself. Then years later, you're still doing it that way, but without all the anxiety. And you're like, I wish I could have just skipped all the anxiety about worrying about how other people do it because you end up doing it yourself anyway. Most of the time.
Yeah,
exactly.
And everybody I think's got their own. I'm a radio, TV, film major, and it's interesting because when you go take your classes, you learn. Well, this is how you do it for TV. This is how you do it for film. This is how you write scripts for this. And then really, when you get in there, you're going to do it your own way anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Some of that it reminds me of like the way lawyers invented a whole language that they don't need it, but it's like job security for them as lawyers speak because you need lawyers just to understand all the jargon that they say.
Oh yeah.
And it's like there's a lot of things like that where people like overcomplicate it as a form of job security.
Right. Well, and in the mainstream, when I was working for DC and Marvel and whatnot, every now and then, it didn't happen all the time, but every now and then I'd work with an editor that just felt like they had to say something because, well, it's my job. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I mean, I understand that, but at the same time, it's like, if it's fine, it's fine. You don't have to make a problem if there's not a problem.
Yeah,
that's your job.
That's cool. I heard a cool story about that with Clint Eastwood, and he was working with a screenwriter. It was for $1 Million Baby, that script, I think. And
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The screenwriter said they handed it in to Clint Eastwood, and he's like, "Cool, let's do it." And then 2 weeks later, they were shooting the movie, and he's like, "Wait, shouldn't there be like years of back and forth and like fine tuning it to the way you like it or whatever?" And he's like, "No, it's good."
Nice.
Exactly. Okay, so Randy wants to know, is Narwhal your pen name? I mean, I know it's not your real name, but that's totally up to you if you want to answer.
Yeah, my real name isn't a secret. It's Per Berg. And I kind of stumbled into the Narwhal thing and it sort of became a meme and then I was just rolling with it. But in hindsight, I guess I like it more than Per Berg. So I just kind of.
I mean, it's unique. Well, I guess the question is then, because I don't know this. How'd you stumble into it? Like, how'd it happen?
Yeah, so it was on like my early fake comic book company like YouTube channel blog.
Oh, okay.
It was just Narwhal Books, but that was attached to my Google account. And then so when I first logged on with Ethan, which is like part of my origin story too, is like I was there for very early in Comic Skate, even kind of pre-Comic Skate I was around, and then Ethan's channel started blowing up from Star Wars, and then I think he hadn't launched Cyberfrog yet, but maybe he had. But it was right around then he had a big channel, and he was having people on. It was like early CG Live, and I did a fan art of Cyberfrog, and he's like, I want to have this kid on. So he put me on, and then I show up and it populates because it's my Google account. It says Narwhal. And he's like, should I call you Narwhal? And I was like, yes. And then so
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What do you remember? Like, were you a comic collector then growing up?
Not really. I loved
and all that, but
yeah, I loved like Saturday morning, like Transformers, G.I. Joe. I had all the G.I. Joe toys, Ninja Turtles, all that stuff, like kid of the 90s. But I didn't really get into comics until high school. And then like, yeah, from then on, I was reading like a lot of trades, but I never really collected even issues. And then I'm still kind of trying to continue that education because there's like countless classics that people will be like, oh, you haven't read that, you got to read that. So I'm like, the latest, even in the last year, I read Frank Miller's Daredevil stuff, and like that blew my mind. That was like life changing how good that was. And I was like, I can't believe I waited that long to read it or whatever. But yeah,
See, that's stuff that we bought when it came out.
yeah.
I know.
That's
I
sad.
know.
We're old.
We're old. We know it.
I remember getting Daredevil. It's 181 when she dies, right? Isn't it 181 when Elektra gets it? I want to say it is. I can't. Whatever issue number when
Yeah, because 159 is
when Bullseye stabs Elektra and kills Elektra. I remember buying that brand new, and I mean that stuff was just that and Walt Simonson's Thor. Have you read Simonson's Thor stuff?
No, that's something I should add to the list though, because I'm going down this list of classics.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So one thing I like about your stuff, dude, your art style is just so. It's very unique. It's very pared down to the basics, but the storytelling's really cool. I mean, your art style in general is very cool. And it's funny when you mention that you went to a school, that was more for animation. I can totally see that, in your work. And I just, what artists influenced you? Because I assume there had to be some.
Yeah, good question. I did think early on, like jumping into it, I was like, I want to do an art style that's like, hypothetically like anime, but if they didn't have big eyes. Like I like everything about anime except that they have big eyes. And then I'd see stuff that's like that, and it was always European stuff. So they're like French artists that I loved. And another one, there's a French artist named Bengal, and he's one of my favorites. And then he did all this fan art of Street Fighter, which is a kind of this like circular thing that of my influences is Street Fighter, like Capcom art, almost like a Capcom house style. I love that. And their best artist is a guy named Bengus. And so Bengal and Bengus are my two favorite artists. And that's kind of like a huge influence. And then that kind of is just like, it goes hand in hand because it feels animation-y, their style too.
Oh yeah.
But I love animation. So I was like, I that's like the books I would pick up randomly too. If they have like an animation style or European style, I'll sometimes pick up those just because of the art. So I've always have been attracted to that. And so that's kind of more the direction that my art went in.
Are you, it looks like it, are you all digital? Or do you?
Yeah. Ever since the start of Earthbound, like some of my early 20s stuff is not digital.
Sure. Yeah.
Wow, that is cool. The entire art style. What I saw it and I love the video and everything, and I really can't wait for it to come out. I was excited when I backed it, but how did you really come up with the whole? Decide Nosferatu. That is what I want to do for my project.
Yeah, because it really does seem like I know of Earthbound and Earthbound 2, and then it's just like Nosferatu. So yeah, that's a great question.
Especially being based off of the original movie versus, hey, I want to do this other thing. So I mean, what preempted that?
Yeah, it was because I almost have like ADD with projects. So I was working on Earthbound and Foreign Agent, my second book, kind of at the same time. And then I was like, for a third project, I'd kind of want to work on something maybe that I don't write. And I was like, well, what could it be? And then I was like, well, I could adapt a silent film. And then so I was like, well, what silent film would I do if I even could do that? So I kind of watched a handful and some of the classics or whatever. And Nosferatu was my favorite of those. And so from there, it was like an idea. I was like, maybe this will work. And then I was like doing some experiments and testing it and kind of working on it in the evenings. And it didn't have a script. Like all it has is there's almost like a pre-comic that is giant. It's like giant thumbnails of the whole comic, and there's no script that I just kind of did that while I watched the movie. And so then, so Nosferatu, Foreign Agent, and Earthbound, I kind of think of them as like my first trilogy, even though they're obviously not connected at all.
Right.
But that's very like pure early Narwhal kind of stuff. So this is like a good conclusion to that. Some of the project coming up after this are like some collaborations and some more polished stuff. But these three have a special place in my heart. I'm glad to be like releasing Earthbound and now this and Foreign Agent, like, because I started them when I was 30. So now I'm 35. So it's like 5 years later, which is kind of a long time, a big chunk of my life, and working on these books. So getting them out feels good.
So what I'm hearing is they're not connected yet. So you could find a way to do it and make the Narwhal verse.
Yeah. I actually have there's some stuff I have been connecting kind of just for fun, because I have a short called The Naked Samurai, and it's just a samurai kind of story, and those are in the back of the Earthbound books, and I have a little short written that connects it to the Earthbound universe, but it's just like a timeline thing. So the Naked Samurai would never show up in Earthbound because he's long dead, but they exist on the same timeline kind of.
So it's a short story based off of like an actual samurai in feudal Japan.
That one is just, I kind of made it up, but it's a concept. It's funny. It's like you only get good ideas for shorts, or at least me, like one a year. And I had this idea for a short comic, and it was based on something my dad told me about when he was hiking in the mountains out here. He says he'll be hiking sometimes and it's pouring rain. So if it's in the summer, then he actually strips down to his underwear and throws it all in his pack, so he keeps all his stuff dry. And then he can dry off really quick when he gets to camp, just with a quick towel or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if a samurai did that? So it's a samurai traveling in the summer naked with all his stuff in his pack, and then bandits try to rob him, because a naked samurai, you'd think they would be a good victim or target. Sure. But this samurai happens to be a total badass. So he defeats them all naked, and it starts this legend about the naked samurai.
Well, they wouldn't know either. I would assume they wouldn't know they're attacking a samurai because he's naked. So.
Yeah, they don't think they knew. Yeah, and then later on, the reputation spreads, and people are like looking out for this naked samurai. And that's a big part, because that story expanded into a longer story. And then there's like a guy who just walks around naked pretending to be the badass because he can get away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, because once the legend grows, then it's like, wait a second, if I walk around naked, they'll be like, oh, that's the naked samurai, don't mess with that guy.
Yeah, but he's actually like a coward kind of.
It's like you, Dennis, you walk around naked and people just think.
No, I stand in front of my big bay window, and they want to look, they can look.
Yeah,
doesn't bother me.
The fact is, though, you do that right across the street from elementary school when the kids are playing.
As long as I'm over 1,000 feet, it's all that matters.
You guys ever do the Winnie the Pooh? That's like shirt, but no pants or underwear.
The shirt, no.
Notice you can't see what we're wearing from the waist down, though.
Yeah.
No. Usually, if anything, I'm shirtless. I'm hot all the time. So, other than you will see me sleeveless tank tops like 95% of the time, unless I'm on the show or something like that.
Yeah, that's only something a woman can do. There's something sexy about a woman walking around with a t-shirt on, and that's it. But when a guy does it, it's just weird.
Yeah.
It's just a little creepy. If you want to walk us through the campaign, or walk, people watching through the campaign and stuff, and if you want to play the video, that's cool.
Yeah, let's watch the video real quick. I'll just hit play. I have the sound on. So. Yeah, that's done in Blender. I've been getting into Blender a little bit. It's a really fun 3D program that you can do some 2D stuff with and like zoom in on 2D panels and everything.
Oh, really? Is Blender? I'm trying to think. Is that a free program or no?
It is. It's free. It's public domain. It has a huge like community and people, lots of tutorials. And yeah, it works good for like trailers like this, motion comics, animation. Eventually I want to dabble in some animation, but I've been trying to keep some of those Blender skills sharp. It's funny, you know, I said I was in animation school a long time ago, and one of the reasons I dropped out was because it was all focused on 3D, and I really didn't like 3D back then. I was into 2D, but then like now I like love 3D, and so I'm going back to kind of getting into it.
That's cool. I might have to download it because I was going to ask you. I knew you did it, but I didn't know what you used, and I always like to find out the different programs people use. So I might have to check that out. Because that trailer is cool as hell. It's creepy.
It is.
Yeah, thanks.
And it really captures the darkness. You know, I remember as a kid seeing that movie, and, you know, it was on probably like PBS or one of those channels, you know, and it was just, I'm like, well, where's all the, it was silent. I was like, where is everything? And as a kid, but I was like, this was really cool. And I was like, it really took a whole new thing. So it has always stuck with me. So a lot of these classics like that, you know, even like the original Dracula, yeah, Bram Stoker, this is just really cool stuff. So when I saw that you were putting something like this out, I mean, that just kind of takes me back to when, well, quite a few years ago. I didn't realize it was 100 years though. No. I mean, I literally just looked it up because I remember seeing it as a kid. So yeah, it was 1922. So wow.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't plan that either, but I saw it coming up and it kind of just worked out perfectly. And I was like, I can't pass this up. That reminds me too, there's a modern filmmaker named Robert Eggers. He did a movie called The Witch, and he did the movie called The Lighthouse. Have you guys seen or heard of those?
The Lighthouse sounds familiar. And the guy,
yeah, that one is like Robert Pattinson and who else? Willem Dafoe. And it's just two guys at a lighthouse. It's all black and white. It's kind of like artsy fartsy, but it's good. Oh, cool. Yeah, but so Robert Eggers is like pretty cool, weird filmmaker. He loves Nosferatu, and he's trying to make that, and he probably will. I don't know if he'll. Sometimes like those passion projects take a while to get off the ground or never do, but he's been talking about that too. And so Nosferatu's kind of been in the, maybe because of the 100 years, but it's kind of been around in the zeitgeist. People have been thinking about him. I think one of the reasons people respond to it is it does get compared to Dracula, and you can almost be like Team Nosferatu or Team Dracula. Yeah. And because it's the same story. And like Randy said, it's the Stoker estate sued the F.W. Murnau when he released this movie, because he totally did just rip off Bram Stoker's novel. But he changed the vampire into like this monster. And I think that's kind of part of the German expressionism that's kind of fun, is like it's the same like storytelling magic that the Muppets have years later, like Sesame Street, where like an actor and a Muppet will be on screen together and they play it straight. Like the actor doesn't right. act like the Muppet's a Muppet. Yeah. Right. And that's, they do that with Nosferatu, but they're treating him like a human, but he's this monster, and it's kind of fun. And that was one of the things I really liked about it. And that kind of translates to the horror. And part of it too is almost like psychological. You're like, are we seeing what Jonathan Harker is seeing, or are we seeing something else? Like, we don't know really who's seeing what and what's real in some ways, and what the metaphors are of what it means that he's perceived as a monster on the screen, you know, but people aren't really reacting to him that way. So that's kind of cool. And the type of horror it is, I've kind of coined this term. I call it soothing horror. It's the kind of horror where it doesn't really scare you or necessarily even give you nightmares, but it's like you want to like light a candle and get some hot tea and bundle up in bed and like snuggle and read it. It's like kind of with a storm right. outside or something, you know?
Right. Well, and the design of Nosferatu, especially for being 100 years old, is just, it still holds up today.
Yeah, you know? It's like iconic. Yeah. And
yeah. I mean, the way he looks, I mean, you know, you look at Dracula, it was Bela Lugosi, right? Yeah, that played him originally, and there's nothing scary looking about that.
Yeah,
you know, that's what he looks like. You know, just with the, the makeup for the hair and stuff, but whoever designed the look of Nosferatu back then just, hit a home run that if it was going to be remade today, well, it's kind of like Creature from the Black Lagoon as well. If they ever did do a Creature from the Black Lagoon today, which I think would be really cool just because of what they can do with special effects.
I wish they would, actually.
Yeah, so do I. But they wouldn't have to do anything to the creature design.
Yeah.
But the sad part is some idiot, if they ever did do it, would probably have enough power to go, no, we need to update it. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Oh, it would be a Michael Bay production.
Oh,
yeah.
Lots of explosions.
But you know what? You could pass for Nosferatu. We just give you the ears. You take your glasses off. Dude, I think you just found your calling on the remake.
Nice.
Yeah. That's actually, the Creature from the Black Lagoon would make a great comic and you wouldn't have to change anything. That's something I realized with this too. It's kind of cool about comics is this movie, it's 100 years old and it's a silent film. It's honestly, it's a great film. It's a classic, but it's like a little dated in terms of modern audiences. They would probably find it boring.
Yep.
And the comic though, because how you control the pacing when you're reading it, I didn't cut anything out. It's all there, but it's all of a sudden it's not boring because you can kind of read it really fast. It takes like half hour to 40 minutes to read instead of 90 minutes to watch or whatever. And that was kind of interesting. I was like, oh, this story could reach a new audience. And in some ways it's like more accessible than the movie, which is a cool thing I didn't really see coming.
Did you research to make sure? I assume you did, because it's 100 years old, it's automatically public domain, or?
Yeah. That's kind of just what I figured. I was like, I think all silent films pretty much are public domain now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had no idea.
Because I have thought like, what other, if I wanted to do another thing like this, what could it be? And, there's a lot I'd kind of want to do or like to do, but some of them aren't public domain yet, or it's too iffy, too sketchy. And then there's some like older stuff maybe you could do, or there's things that everyone thinks of, like you could do Shakespeare or something.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I was going to say, I think it's on this page. Yeah. So this is another kind of way that the experiment played out that was kind of fun is I do this like 7-panel page all the way through. So it's 3 of this vertical, 1 kind of big central, and then 3 more. And it's that way through the whole book. And then I'm just doing the movie and kind of trying to design it so that the central panels are kind of cool. And sometimes the way the movie's structured, it actually has kind of a cool structure. So this page, it has like, this is a location, and then it cuts to another location, then exterior, interior, then it cuts to another location. So that's like 4 panels, 3 locations, 3 different like potential time periods. And then back to the second. So there's in 1 page, there's 3 locations cutting back and forth, and it's not saying meanwhile, so it's like I'm like, is this even going to work? But I honestly really like it. It's like, even if it is a little disorienting, it kind of adds to the effect and feel and fun of the story.
Yeah. Oh, I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just looks great. I can't wait.
Thanks. Yeah. So the thing too, it's, as I pitch it, I don't really pitch the story because we almost all know it, but it's actually a real estate deal is like the story, a real estate deal gone awry. But it's Jonathan Harker is going to sell this house to the accountant, goes on this trip, and it kind of goes wrong and blah blah blah. But there's a soft cover, a hard cover, and then there's a bonus book called Interactivity, which I have a few of those here, like hold
on, I'll full screen you.
Yeah. So this, because speaking of public domain, Winnie the Pooh entered public domain. So I
didn't know that.
I put him on my cover because
nice.
Yeah, it's not really related at all, but it's like I have some public domain Winnie the Pooh material now. But the Interactivity is based on like a big essay that I wrote last year about storytelling and just kind of one specific thing that I've kind of become obsessed with, which I call interactivity. And that's just like, I read a big, huge interview with Hitchcock and Francois Truffaut, and Truffaut called it the laws of the laws of audience participation. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a story, the more you kind of have, the audience gets to do stuff with it based on how you feed them information and layer the story, the better and more fun it is for them. So that's kind of what that book's all about. And it's nonfiction, but anyone who's interested in that kind of stuff, I highly recommend it. And I have a matching video on my YouTube channel that kind of goes with it too. That's my only video on my YouTube channel that's like fully edited, like with audio and music, and it's almost like a mini documentary trying to talk about interactivity. And it goes into one very specific example, which is this it's like my favorite Western, but it's called One-Eyed Jacks, starring Marlon Brando. Yeah. And like that movie has really good interactivity. So I kind of break that down.
Oh, that's cool. I will have to watch that.
Yeah, check it out.
I love stuff like that.
Well, I was going to say, Randy mentioned that Dracula was meant to be a romantic monster that would appeal to women. Count Orlok was meant to terrify.
Yeah, that's cool. That's fun how it's like it's the same source, but just totally flipped on its head.
Yep, exactly. It is. It's kind of like, Grimm's fairy tales, how the Germans always had to have their take on it.
Yeah,
that's true.
It is.
It's true.
And then let's see, Randy else said, first Winnie the Pooh book is in the public domain. Touch the Disney version of Pooh and they will send in the special forces.
Yeah. They say you can't give him that shirt, that outfit. If you give him the red shirt, that's the Disney version. In the books, he isn't like that. And so,
oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Look at that. So Disney gave him a red shirt. They didn't want to give him pants, but they gave him a shirt.
See, and that's what DC's doing, I think, with Superman. They're trying to rebrand him so they can only get the DC version.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, they don't have to pay out to the family or whatever and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll say quickly too, just a few bonuses included in the book is a gallery of guest artists kind of drawing their take on Nosferatu. So this is by Fresher Luke, and he has a live campaign now too. He's a Comicsgate guy, and his is called Forsaken Gods. So everyone keep an eye out for that too. And this is my buddy Jared. He has this weird, cool style, like kind of crazy, but I'm a big fan of his work. And then there's going to be, because Clint Stoker of Comicsgate is doing a Dracula book this year as well, too. And he's like very distantly related to Bram Stoker, which is kind of awesome and hilarious.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so we did a crossover short comic where it's 6 pages and there's like 2 episodes. They're just 3 pages, just like a little gag kind of thing. But it's almost like a sitcom, but it's like if they're like neighbors. There's like 2 castles and they both want to buy the house that Jonathan Harker's trying to sell. They're like fighting over it, So that's
cool.
That's included in the book too.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it looks like you got about 6 days left.
That is awesome, by the way. I love that image.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, this is the hardcover. And this one, it's funny. I had this concept and I drew it like very early, and then I redrew it just recently, like a couple weeks ago. And the redraw is way better, so I could see I have improved in the past like 5 years.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, there's a Hammer movie. I forget what Hammer movie, but it's the exact same concept. It's a little different framing, but it's a woman's neck, and she has 2 Band-Aids on her neck. And it's a Hammer vampire film, and so that's just kind of cool. Basically, the idea is out there. Multiple people have used it for a cover, basically.
Yeah. That's cool.
Here's the soft cover. This is Alejandro Mirabel. He's an amazing artist I got to work with.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, he's really good. He got hired at id Software just like a couple weeks ago. So he's not exactly Comicsgate. He's kind of just doing his own thing. He's doing some NFT stuff. He's very successful, very talented.
And how many pages is the book?
So the story is like 68.
Ooh.
And then, it's like the 10-page gallery, the short comic. And I'm going to include, there's potential for some good behind the scenes stuff of just showing even like frame to frame comparisons. And I have that whole first comic that's just like layouts and instead of a script. So I'm going to share some of that stuff too. Like 4 pages at least of that.
That's
So then
cool.
total, it's like 80 something, 80 to 90.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So are you a big fan of the genre, or are you like a cross genre kind of a person?
Yeah, I like genre in general a lot. That's like all I like to do. I think I can compare my tastes a little bit to like Tarantino, how he like dabbles in like every genre, but he
Okay.
doesn't really do anything but genre. He's not too interested. Like there's a Hitchcock quote. Hitchcock says, "I don't make slices of life. I make slices of cake." And
Okay.
that's kind of how I feel like I probably will never do like a slice of life, even though I do enjoy those from time to time. But like a lot of my books, it's like earthbound sci-fi.
Right.
Foreign Agent is like a home invasion thriller. This one is a horror, and I have some other ones. Like I'm working on a Western right now, just trying to dip my toes in different genres.
I was going to say, so what do you have planned after this?
Yeah, after this, there's a collection of shorts. I think I'll do that in the summer because I've built up a lot of shorts over the past 5 years. And I think it might be 2 books, one black and white, one color, and they'll each be at least 100 pages. And so that'll be kind of just be a big Narwhal short a campaign in August or something. And then I'm kind of like, it's funny, the crowdfunding, it's like building the train tracks while you're on the train. So
Yep.
I've got stuff I'm working on every day, but I just don't know what'll come out when.
Sure.
And I'm still like, it's been fun, like being a pro comic artist through Comicsgate, but my lifestyle hasn't changed. I just live in my buddy's extra room for cheap rent and help him fix up his house a little bit.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I do have even a little bit of like money left over, and I'm investing it back into comics. So I got a few comics in production where I hired a writer for one and I hired an artist for another. Yeah, so that kind of stuff.
No, man, that's cool. It's good to be young and single.
Yeah, there is advantages. It's like, yeah, I have thought about that there's nothing tying me down. Don't have to put food on the table or anything like that.
I thought you were talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
No, not that loser.
Whatever.
He's no Tom Brady. I mean, come on.
That is true. There is truth to that.
You a football fan at all?
Just a little bit, but yeah, I saw Tom Brady came out of retirement. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
Yeah.
Dennis's nemesis.
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's hilarious.
That's okay. I like him. I mean, you'll never hear me. He's very professional. He's amazing at what he does. I have very little bad to say about him other than, I hate losing to him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, since you do like genres and, you're kind of cross-platform, what's your favorite comic book or superhero?
Yeah, good question. I probably go back to, if I'm talking like the childhood nostalgia. I love Wolverine. I love Snake Eyes from the G.I. Joes. I always liked, as a kid, I liked anyone who wore a mask. And then I feel like in the 80s, as a kid, it was like no one got that except kids, that we loved characters in masks. And now everyone knows that. So now that's all there is. And now I almost kind of like the other thing or whatever. But I was all about the masked characters whenever I saw them. And I remember noticing when it was around kind of because of video games like Halo, everyone loved Master Chief. And I liked him a lot too, but I was like, I think they figured out the mask thing. Everyone's doing the mask thing now.
Are you a big do you do video games and stuff, or?
Yeah, except I can't play them these days. So I watch them on YouTube, just in the background while I draw, but I
Really?
addicted.
Man, so I'm not a video gamer at all. I just never got into them. But was it Christmas? I think it was over Christmas when we were up visiting family. My niece's husband, I'm like, what the hell are you watching? Because he just had his phone out. He's like, and his wife chimes in, my niece, she's like, oh, he's watching some dude play a video game. And I'm like, yeah, I don't get that.
I don't either. My nephew does that. My one of my godkids, he does it. And I'm like, don't you just want to play the game? Because for me, that's half the fun. And they're like, oh no. And he'll just start laughing and watching the other people run around. And I'm like, but you could be doing that yourself. No, I'm fine. I just like watching them do it. And I'm like, wow, it's just an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Instead of immersive, you're just watching somebody else be immersive, but you're equally as entertained. I would have never thought of that as a concept.
Yeah, it is like a younger generation thing. I have a little theory on it too. I think content or whatever, they call it content now, but it almost as a prerequisite, it has to be something that you can multitask to. Like kids aren't even interested in stuff if they have to give it all their attention, which is kind of a bummer. And that means that watching people play video games is like perfect for that. And so instead of watching like a famous old TV show with a crazy awesome story, they just will watch some guy play video.
It is amazing because my nephew, he's got a little bit of ADHD, all that kind of fun stuff. He's on the spectrum a little bit. Great kid, but literally he'll focus on, and then he'll be doing something, but he'll keep his attention on it. And even if you don't think he's paying attention to it, he is. He's actually hearing everything and or seeing everything that's going on. It blows my mind because I don't function that way.
Yeah. And even for me, like it's like a little different. I don't feel too guilty about it because I'm being productive. I'm actually drawing with the stuff in the background, but it's like, it's hard for me to imagine just doing that and just sitting there on a couch and looking at it. I don't know if people do that, but yeah.
So Randy Howell just back Nosferatu. So woo!
Randy, thanks.
So there you go. Thanks, Randy. We really appreciate that, brother.
And I think he's going to love it when that comes out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, the art's all done, so it's kind of just funding, and I'm kind of remastering, making sure all the pages look good and everything. And then like in June or something, I'll just fulfill. I'll just order the prints and ship them out.
That's what I was going to ask, was when it was going to fulfill. So about June. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Why don't you take us through all the individual tiers real quick before we wrap it up?
Because I know not everybody's on now, but we tend to get more views later on. So as people go through it, they can see it, and then we'll put your link and everything right in the description below, so anybody can just click on it.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah. So the featured tier is everything included. It's a simple campaign. There's only 3 products. There's the soft cover, the hardcover, and then the interactivity bonus book nonfiction thing. So then there's the soft cover, which is $20 because it's black and white printing's a little bit cheaper. So I did pass some of the savings on to the backers here. And then in Nosferatu soft cover plus interactivity is $35. And then the hardcover is $36. Again, normally I charge $40 for a hardcover, but it's a little bit off because it's black and white. And then hardcover plus interactivity is $50. So that's everything.
Awesome, dude. Nice and tight.
That is.
Yeah, I've learned that because I fulfill myself, and I do notice, like, and speaking of when you were saying earlier, Andy, about like having so much to do and how it can almost paralyze you. That happens with fulfillment too. And you're like, like with Earthbound, I'm like, I got to do shirts and I got to like see what sizes they are and order that. And then I got to screen print it and blah, blah, blah. And I'm almost about to finish mailing the shirts out. Then I'll be completely done with the Earthbound fulfillment. But after I did that, I was like, I want to do one where it's like no add-ons, where I can just look at the tier, what they want. I pack it, then I ship it. And it's like 3 things max or whatever. Yeah.
Dude, that's very cool. That's really cool. Yeah. So you have a YouTube channel. So guys, go. I guess what's your YouTube channel?
Narwhal Books, it's called.
Okay, that's why I figured it's pretty simple. Yeah. So you can check out his YouTube channel and definitely check out this campaign and back it. He does great stuff. And dude, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. So
yeah, thanks for having me. That went fast. It's great talking to you guys.
Yeah, man, you got it, brother. And we'll talk more.
It was a blast. I can't wait. Like I said, a few months away.
Yeah. And I'm going to back it later. I always usually wait till it gets down to the wire. I like that little pressure.
Me too.
It's like sniping on eBay.
It is. It's like sniping on eBay, which I've been known to do as well. So
yeah, that's some people like that. They deliberately be the guy who like gets it right at the edge and contributes to like, because campaigns do good at the end. They'll get a little boost.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I usually, when I see a campaign I like and I want it back, I just hit the follow button, because then, Indiegogo, they send you out that little Eric Wapo backed it. Nice.
Hardcover. Nice.
So,
Nice. Thanks, Eric.
they send out that nice little reminder saying there's 48 hours left. And that's my reminder to go, time to do it. So,
Yeah. Nice.
yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I just got to decide because I like, man, I like the covers on both.
I do too. That's the problem.
So
Yeah,
honestly, what it comes down to is, what's that?
This is the first time I've done alternate covers, and it's the first time I've had a cover where I didn't draw it, because I do like when the cover matches the interior. But for Alejandro, I was like, I can't pass this up. I have to go for it. And the thing is, like, if anyone feels the way I do, like you like the cover and the interior art to match, then you can just get the hardcover, because then it's,
Right.
I do
Right.
both.
Well, I love that. I love the extra activity book as well. So whichever one I back, it's going to be with that one, because
Oh, cool.
I love stuff like that. I eat stuff like that up. So
Nice. Yeah. If you should check out my YouTube video and let me know, because we can talk some other time. I could have you on my channel too, and we could talk about that kind
yeah,
of
dude.
stuff.
Yeah, man.
What's next for you? What are you doing?
I literally finished the last page of First Man.
I got to see them all today, everybody.
You did.
The whole book.
I finished the last page of First Man yesterday, and I just drew the there's going to be 5 bio pages in the back of the book. So I drew 4 of the characters today. I got 1 more character left to draw for that. And then basically it's just production mode of, the colorist is probably about 15 to 20 pages behind me, I think. And then I just got the first batch of lettering in from my letterer. So my co-writer and I are looking through that stuff, doing proofreading and stuff. And then I just got to send stuff out, because I do have a sticker, an oversized trading card, and a mini print that I need to send out to the printer. I got all the metal bookmarks in over the weekend. So all those are done, sitting over here in a box.
And they're sharp.
And they're sharp looking, and they're metal. So they're actually
literally sharp.
Yeah. So I'm just working on wrapping up First Man Volume 2.
Cool,
Which, by the way,
awesome.
everybody, go back. It's in demand, and like I said, I just finished the interior for it. So there you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude.
Are you doing volume 3 after that, or?
That's a very good question. I'm honestly, we were talking about that on the Kings Monday night. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to roll into the volume 3 or take a break and do something else. So, because, for me, this is new for me from the standpoint of doing my own thing, crowdfunding and all that. And including volume 1, it's over 100 pages of First Man stuff I've done now. And as much as I do love the character and stuff, a part of me because I do have ADHD, and I'm kind of like, I kind of want to do something else. So I got to figure it out.
Yeah, it scratched that itch. That's kind of fun.
So I've got a couple other things that I've done that I could see dusting off or whatever. I don't know. I'm not that worried about it. People ask, and it's fine, obviously, to ask because it's a fair question. But I'm definitely the type of person where I'm really good at just focusing on one thing and then moving on. Not that I won't think about what's next at all while I'm wrapping up this volume of First Man, but I'm just not good at going whole hard into thinking about it because First Man isn't done yet.
Yeah, good point.
Until I get it done, that's what, is going to be top of mind. So,
yeah. Let me say too, while we've been talking, I think I got 3 or 4 new backers. So thanks, guys. That's awesome. That's a nice little bump.
Oh, good.
And
Well,
Eric
dude,
says he backed me for the first time. Eric, glad to have you. Thanks. I'll make sure to make you proud, hopefully. Stick around.
Dude, that's very cool. I'm so glad because we're a young channel. So, like Dennis said, we get good viewers, live, but we get more replays and stuff. So What's Randy saying here? And you two guys have to drink a lot of beer to close out First Man. Oh, I will.
You know what? We should do, when you do your closeout. Well, it depends on where you do your closeout. We'll have to do a beer night.
I was going to say you should stay up till 3 a.m. because that's when campaigns close. 3 a.m.
Yeah, that would be a rough one.
But this is the real question, Dennis. Will we see Dennis cosplay as First Man? He actually wants to cosplay as Penumbra, and I'm like, whoa. Nobody wants to see that.
Well, actually, he said, will we have a Dennis cover on the next book? You know, the problem with the Dennis cover is I'd have to have my cheesehead on, my X-Men comic in this hand, the Starship Enterprise in this hand. I know that's a lot of busy work for Andy, especially having to draw stuff that he doesn't like.
Like the Packers.
And the Starship Enterprise and cheeseheads.
Ugh. So we'll see. But we're going to wrap it up. Next week, Joe Sontag, I hope I pronounced Joe's last name right. I'm sure I did, is going to be the guest on the show. He's got a campaign that is, his sign up is up now for Reaper the Destroyer or Reaper Destroyer. So he's going to be on the show next week to talk about that, and we'll learn more about him. And I started putting my quick flips out. I got about 5 or 6 out already before I had to come over for the broadcast. I'll finish the rest of them tomorrow. I will be doing Power Book. I don't know if it's going to be Fantastic Four or Captain America, but I'm going to do my Power Book and Record review and full tour of the book. And I am going to be closing out with a couple of quick flips. Mega #2 came out, so I got the quick flip up. It's an amazingly cool comic. I'm going to do a full review on it, oversized, massive kaijus. So anyway, I'll be putting that out this week too.
Cool.
Very cool. Let's see. What's Eric saying here? Could do an Action Comics 1 homage where Dennis is the guy running away screaming. You know, that would fit his personality rather well.
Yep, I'm always running away from Andy screaming.
It's true. As soon as we go off the air, that's what he does. Bastard.
This long, stupid sleeve shirt comes off, my tank top goes off, and I go screaming out of here as fast as I can, usually out an open window.
Whatever. All right, guys, we will see you next week, maybe on Friday. Friday, we're driving to Florence, South Carolina for a convention on Saturday that I'm a guest at. So it's PowerCon in Florence, South Carolina. I'll be there. So if anybody watching this is close by, check it out.
Yeah, swing in if you can.
And who knows? Maybe we'll do a video while we're driving.
Yeah, this weekend got screwed up. We were supposed to be Andy did go to the convention. Sorry, Larry, I couldn't make it. I know you were on. I don't know if you're still on the show. I couldn't make it to the show. It was a bummer. Andy represented, but we didn't get to do our comic call this time. So this weekend we will.
Yeah. So until next time, bye-bye, everybody. We'll talk to you guys later.
Live long and prosper. Thanks.